So Moises, what we thought was a one-off from the Houston Dynamo is possibly
Mm,
turning out to be a league-wide trend. It is growing.
mm,
It is metastasizing, some might say. A tweet yesterday from the San Jose Earthquakes that was shared with me.
mm,
And let me just read some of this for you. And keep in mind it comes with a video that professes
mm,
to deliver best-in-class clean back-end support.
no.
In Silicon Valley, performance matters. To reduce downtime and create a frictionless experience, Quakes are proud to announce a new partnership with Dude Wipes as our
No,
backup
Phil.
jersey
No,
partner.
no, 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 no. Okay. This is in the advertising industry what we call unearned activation. They didn't pay us for this. I don't see a giant carton of dude wipes in my living room. Not that I would
Thank
want it.
God.
Their insidious plan has worked because this terrible, literally execrable ad campaign is getting people who are not being paid to bring it up to bring it up. And I'll just remind people, just because they say that something is flushable doesn't mean that it's flushable. Ask any plumber. Ask any city utilities worker. Down with dude wipes, but not down your drain.
Emergency podcast. Better did a thing, so we gotta talk about it. Emergency podcast. It's an emergency. Emergency podcast. Shut up, oh yeah, shut up, oh yeah, shut up. Emergency podcast. It's an emergency.
Hey, a hearty hello to you all, and welcome to Emergency Podcast, the Austin FC podcast, where we talk about all the Austin FC emergencies, the ill-advised back of the jersey sponsor emergencies,
Lower
and
back. Lower back.
Moises, how was your week? You were, and we're going to talk about this in a second here, one of two brave souls that met Davey Arnaud on Thursday for the weekly press conference ahead of our match with Colorado tonight, as we are recording here early Saturday morning, as is becoming our start of the weekend ritual.
Well, Phil, here's a bit of an exclusive that I think I can throw out there.
Ooh.
I can cite sources with knowledge of the matter have indicated to me that over various dead bodies would Austin FC take a dude wipe sponsorship.
Okay.
Of any kind.
Thank God. All right.
Of any kind.
I
can't be more specific than that.
That's why we're glad this is the club we cover.
Yeah.
Not for any on the field results reasons this season.
Hey, see, now we're giving them unearned ad activations again. It's look,
we gotta stop saying activations in relation to dude wipes, by the way.
Activations. That's just the lingo, man.
The Quakes video is pretty funny though, but still.
Once upon a time, a lot of people thought a lot of jokes on South Park were funny too.
Yeah. They involved Q. I mean, Q wipes was just sitting right there. But.
Yeah, it's mountain time at elevation, still trying out new stuff, different stuff, leading into Leagues Cup. I think my biggest takeaway from everything that we've had to look at over the last week since last we talked is that stuff's still getting figured out. People are getting used to different things. But the most important thing, Phil...
We'll debate whether it's getting figured out later.
I didn't say that it is. I said that that's the process. Okay. That's the process. I'm not talking about success or failure. I'm just saying
right.
That's the process. The most important thing is that, once again, we were right about something, which is that the club has signed Jorge Lastaway to a half-season plus half-season option, half-season plus 1/2 option plus 1 option.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a plus 0.5 plus 1. There's a lot of math involved. There's a lot of roster designations involved. It's an international supplemental slot.
Yeah,
which
supplemental plus international is very rare in this
it's
league
very rare.
for reasons.
Some
But
some have accused me for months of being crazy to think that such a thing would happen at all. Guess what? It's happened. Now it's history.
yeah, it happened Friday, about a half hour after I dropped the Thursday press conference wrap up article where we speculated about the possibility of Alice Due possibly coming in, at least with some Leagues Cup minutes, as each of us has a sign in front of our house that says, in this house, we believe Jorge Alastue is worthy of a first team contract.
Yeah.
And indeed that happened.
It's
So
true.
did a deep dive last night and laid out some kind of basics about Alice Due and what we think would happen. And I proposed some things in this article, and it kind of ties into the Thursday press conference thing. Again, do the math. If you have three players up front, which are presumably Azuni Vasquez and Facundo Torres, or F Torres, as we are now going to be calling him,
You
since
are.
Irvin Torres is
You are.
emerging. I'm trying to make fetch happen. Just let
You
me,
are. I'm
let me
just
do
going to
this.
call him
Okay.
Faku, and I'm going to call Irvin because that's
Okay.
their names.
Sure. But if you have those three up front and you have five in the back, as Daviano seems to be insisting on doing, how many midfielders can you put on the field then in that case?
If that's what the formation keeps being, I don't know.
Two midfielders. So
Two.
if you go to a 4-4-2 diamond, which Curtin favors employing and would allow Rosales to be at left back, something that I am in favor of, then you have an extra midfield slot to play with. And you can do some really interesting things with that 4-4-2 diamond with Facu or with F Torres, whatever you want to call him. And then you also have opportunities for Alice Due to play, but also for E Torres to play as well. And then obviously Owen Wolf needs to round back into form. So yeah, again, there are only so many minutes still around. I don't think that Alice Due is going to be a game in, game out starter now, but I do think that he merits some starts. I do think that we should see what he's capable of because, as Footy revealed to us, Alice Due in his limited minutes currently is the second best Verde player by their compendium of statistics. And again, nobody on the team is doing great compared to the all-stars that we may or may not have seen on Wednesday. But the point remains, Alice Due has an opportunity now in this half season to show what he's capable of, what level of player he is. Can he break out and be an MLS starter or at least an MLS rotation player, or is he on a USL level, or should he be dealt back to Europe for whatever he can be dealt for, again, just given his age? To me, Alice Due getting signed makes this half of the season much more interesting, provided that he actually gets utilized and that we actually do see him in matches.
The Footy stats, were those drawn explicitly from his first team minutes, or did it incorporate
Yes.
his second team? Okay, that was what I assumed.
This is all first team, yeah.
So I'm not going to say, oh, well, look at his MLS Next Pro stats. But to act like his MLS Next Pro performance this season doesn't exist, I mean, he's a Golden Boot contender in that league. The performance that he's had in that league is why he got this. I think that there's going to be more of a sample size that we get, potentially greatly expanded thanks to Leagues Cup. I don't know that we're going to barely see him play because you don't use an international slot to sign somebody on the supplemental roster and not play him, is the way that I see it. So we're going to see. The thing I keep telling myself, and that I think bears mentioning relative to Alastue, is treat the second portion of this season as a new season. Yes, the points deficit in the table, and yes, this is still 2026, and everything does carry over in aggregate. It's a better measure of what we can expect for the remaining games by using the data that we start to rack up, starting with the Seattle match. They're playing different tactics, they're playing a different formation, and at the moment we have 2 games. By the time people are listening to this, we're headed into a 3rd game, and then we got 3 Leagues Cup games. I would love to see in isolation what all of the first team stats look like on the other side of these first 6 games of the second half of the 2026 season.
Sure.
Once we're on the other side of that Club America game, I'm not going to reserve judgment. I'm plenty critical of that Houston game, which we'll get into in a minute. But before we hop off of this Alastue thing, I think he very much has the potential to surprise a lot of people. And I think a couple of the questions that that we've got about, well, where does he play and who does he play next to and who does he play above and that sort of thing. It'll be interesting to see what happens when they play him at the same time as Irvin, because they play together really well, really, really well. And on the second team, they do not play as replacements for one another. They play together. And that connection in the midfield is one of those things that we've been missing, is connective dynamism in the midfield. Players like the two of them that are so really situationally aware and good at chance creation, good at on the ball communication, off the ball communication.
I mean, those seem like overlapping skill sets because we have been watching the Austin FC first team for a while and their chance creation and all that. But tell me, you've watched a lot more Verdos than I have. So what do you see between Irvin and Jorge then? What do they do on the field? Where are they positioned? How do they interplay off one another?
They're very, very complementary. If one of them plays a bit more up than the other, it's definitely Jorge, a bit up from Irvin. But a lot of how it seemed like in the first half of the season, the club, for the limited time that Owen was back and prior to his surgery, the way that they wanted to play Owen and Danny next to each other is the vibe of where I've seen Jorge and Irvin do especially well together. What wasn't quite working in 2025 between Owen and Danny for whatever reason was what had been working really well between Jorge and Irvin. That's one element of what I think is promising about them playing alongside each other. Focusing more specifically on Jorge, he's super flexible. You put in the article, he's played more on the wing. He's a very flexible piece, kind of like an Owen Wolf. He can play a little bit anywhere, maybe a little bit less set in his ways than an Owen who has kind of ideas about where he wants to play and what he wants to do. He doesn't seem like he's terribly happy playing as deep as he is, just the way that it seems.
We're talking about Owen here.
Owen Wolf, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I see them playing Jorge a similar way, but just in terms of, is he going to be willing to do what he's told? I think a bit more so than Owen, a bit more so than guys that have been around for a little while, who are more, this is the kind of player that I am. Jorge's a team player. He takes orders and does as he's told. And I don't see him having some of the resistance that some of the older guys might have, because they're like, nah, this is what I do and this is what I want to play.
Yeah, I am a little worried with Dubasarski gone now. Not that he's played a lot of minutes, but is the tendency going to be then for Owen to continue to play deeper because they, aside from Ilie, don't really have anybody who's in that role? Are we going to see Rosales in that role more? Is he going to be more of a pure six in Arnaud's system if Arnaud is indeed insisting on five at the back? I don't know if that is where Rosales is best deployed, but I also don't know what they do about that situation, especially if they do go to a diamond. You do need to have somebody at the base of that diamond, and I don't know that Owen is quite that. He can function as a deep lying playmaker, but we had some concerns after the Houston match about his effectiveness. And to me, if you're going to really try to untrack Owen as you need to, I think you need to put him in the position where he's most comfortable in and allow him to recapture some of the stuff that he did in 2025, because he doesn't seem to have really done that so far this year. And that's certainly concerning. He was the leader in goal contributions in 25. He's nowhere close to that in 26. The injury had a lot to do with that, but also I think, again, especially with this change and with what got worked on during the midseason break, I do worry that there's a little bit of confusion that has been reintroduced into Austin. There were questions during the whole Nico Roto friction that we are learning more about, just conflicting directions and players being confused about where they're supposed to be on the field, what they're supposed to be doing, and that manifesting in some of the poor performances that we've seen. We have clarity from Davey on what he wants to do. I'm not just sure that that's exactly the right thing for this club and this group of players.
Additionally, one of the questions that we had was, why wasn't the Alastaway supplemental deal, why didn't they go ahead and pull the trigger on that in advance of the Seattle match? Was it strategic? Was it getting certain things finalized? Or was it that they were waiting for the Dubasarski loan to get
I think it was
completed
that.
and executed because they want to use that other international slot?
Right.
I don't know that they want to deal it for money as much as now I'm thinking maybe that rumor about the Palmeiras player who would be a
Right.
DP6 based on
Yeah.
budget charge.
Emmy Martinez. The
Who
Emmy
knows?
Martinez we like, not the
Not
Emmy
that, not
Martinez we
that.
don't like.
The not that Emmy Martinez. Maybe there is something to that. Whether it's him or whether it's somebody else who would carry an international designation, and they couldn't put a lost away on the supplemental roster using an international slot until they definitely had it, because there's another deal pending for somebody to shore up the defensive midfield like that.
Yeah, I think that's possibly coming. No indications from the club that that's going to happen other than that Martinez rumor. I mean, of course, with the numbers that he's on, that's going to necessitate a DP spot to open up. So that probably means Azuni moving. But again, I don't know if you have any kind of designs on the postseason, as Arnaud seems to have, that you take Azuni out of the lineup at this point in the season, because again, he is your leading goal contributor, and
Right.
he is the one player that looks like he's been semi-consistently effective in this offense. You know, Faku's certainly not doing that. BV's certainly not doing that. The only other semi-consistent player has been Christian Ramirez, and he's done that in limited minutes.
Getting to whether it's that specific player or not, I think where if it doesn't end up being the Emmy Martinez we don't hate, it ends up not being him. That smoke could have been smoke around a fire for that profile of a player that they were looking for, whether it ended up being him or not, which moving one of your DPs or whatever acrobatics it would take with magical monopoly money to make something like that happen or not. Just that the rumor is there that they were looking for that position. Now with Dubrsarski gone, they definitely are in need of somebody with that kind of profile to shore up the roster build.
So maybe a TAM level D-mid.
Maybe that's kind of where my head's at on the whole notion of why try for the playoffs. I don't know that that's an effective coaching strategy. Going, well, do we care about playoffs? No. Davy Arnaud is not, his name may be French, but he does not live in French ambiguity. He is focused on wins and giving it 110%, leaving it all on the field.
Okay. He doesn't read a lot of Sartre, is what you're saying.
Right. That's the feeling I've got. Is Jim Curtin himself said, I've never known Davy Arnaud to punt on anything. I don't know that they are going to risk injury. The notion of keeping some of the powder dry, that I get, but I don't see it benefiting any of the players or the club to reduce their ambition, whether it's going after hardware in Leagues Cup, which is only a certain number of wins that takes, whether it is getting back into the playoff picture, which ask the soccer-wise guys, ask the people who are making predictions based on how people are coming back from the break. The West is in a real weird spot. I'd point it no less than Seattle as an example.
Right.
It's kind of a matter of maybe playoffs just happens to you. It's 2026 is such a crushingly chaotic schedule for every club. Just, I feel like going, oh, well, Austin doesn't have a solid shot at like number 3 or going for the supporter shield. I think the ambition is for all of these guys to show everybody what they're made of, because that affects what their offseason looks like or what their future on the other side of the sprint season looks like for those who may not move in the winter window, but might move in the new international summer window. I don't know. I can't get behind the notion that they're just going to park all ambition because adversity is everything that's in front of them.
Right. I would still rather see them, though, and this is going to be, I don't know, a playful metaphor, as it were. I'd rather see them treat it like a sketchbook than a commissioned painting and do some experimentation. And sometimes sketchbook drawings do end up in a museum. So,
I mean, I
think
think that's what they're doing. That's to me, that's what they're doing. We've got 2 games of it. And I guess to get into the presser, I think the most galling thing that is in the headline that it's easy to be reactionary to is the way that I took what Davey said about how good they looked in the first 10 minutes of the match. Take it from Max and Dunny. They agreed. They were like, wow, this is a different Austin. And that was how I felt about the first 10 minutes of the match. And then the remaining 80 minutes of the match happened, and we saw what happened in the span of 30 minutes. I think not getting some of the nuance of where maybe he was coming from is just something that I'm adapting to, processing the way that Davey talks about stuff. And I think we may take things more seriously or look for deeper meaning than the surface level, just the facts, ma'am, Joe Friday thing that Davey has going on most of the time.
Although some of what he said contrasts with what I saw with my own eyes on Saturday.
Fair.
So
Dig in.
let's take some of these quotes then that he said that kicked off the article. And again, the headline, it's maybe a little reductive in the context of just that headline. You have to read the whole article to understand the context for it and where Arnaud's coming from. But again, when you lose 3-0 and you don't look threatening for large portions of the game, despite what he's throwing out statistically, then again, I have issue with that statement. So he says, we have a clear way that we want to do it and we want to play. So sure, there's this inverted wing backs, there's this 5 at the back. It is clear. I mean, it is clear what they're trying to do. I just don't know that it's particularly effective and that it uses the personnel that they have in the best way. And also, given what we learned about Curtin and the way that he plays, digging into it a little bit more after watching this and wondering, okay, is this coming from Curtin or is this Arnaud just kind of freelancing during this half season that he has? Just questions about whether this is really comporting with what Curtin wants to do, and are they going to learn a third new style in 7 months once Curtin comes in December? It says we're continuing to get better every single game. I have issue with that. We look at the process of what we're doing. We assess the results, obviously, first based on the result, but from an attacking standpoint with the ball, we were happy with what we did against Houston. And then he continues, we arrive in some really good positions. We had 21 crosses in the game, which was the fourth most in the league this week. We arrived with 3 or 4 attackers consistently in the box. We broke their last line. We're so close to getting 2 goals in the game, and yet you did not. And again, all the crosses, talking about many crosses during the game. Who does that remind you of? Do you remember a style of play for this Austin FC team in the past where lots of crosses got sent from the wings? Aimless crosses to nowhere.
Yeah,
lots of absolute
hope.
chimney shots from Emi Rigoni.
Cross and hope on a wing and a prayer. Yeah.
Yep. So this does feel a little Wolfian, maybe, right? So, which makes sense, right? Again, just kind of given the pedigree, given how Arnaud got to the team in the first place, right? And then he goes on to say, I know we don't score, but we're in so many positions. If we play that same game again and we arrive in the positions we did, and he highlights Gallagher, Vasquez, Shemi, our Placheta or Placheta, as Arnaud is now butchering his name, and maybe that's what's going to stick. We're arriving in positions to score goals, so the process of what we're doing doesn't change. We believe in what we're doing and how we're attacking. And again, we have to keep getting better and now executing the final action. Again, this sounds like Wolf. This sounds like things that Wolf tried to kind of tinker and activate the offense. This is shades of 2023. John Kolmanich isolated out on the wing kind of vibes. And I just don't know that it's going to work. Again, especially with personnel, especially now that you have Dubasarski out. There are concerns about what happens when you bring those wingbacks up high and then you leave a back 3 isolated, especially if it is a Biru, Svatak, Heinz, Ike back 3. Again, we might see the same thing that we saw against Houston, where teams can just send balls over the top and beat those players with speed, and then lo and behold, you've got goals scored against, you've got these defensive lapses, and then you've got a hole that Austin can't get out of.
Yeah, that kind of bloop fest working.
I like that.
That was it was hard to watch. Colorado, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but the thinking about Colorado relative this was the issue fine-tuning the execution of the tactics? Or are we going to see the same kind of vulnerability exposed? We did see no more Houston goals in the second half of that game.
Right.
So they did some tuning for the second half, but then where was the goal scoring threat?
And Houston kind of let their foot off the gas, I would think, in the second half. Yeah. So they had already scored the 3 goals that they needed to win. Clearly, all they needed to do was really concentrate on defending and lock those chances down. With Seattle, we saw a little bit of a difference. But again, what we saw was they had a plan that worked for the full 90. They played for the full 90. They didn't make those kind of defensive lapses early on, and then they used the surface of the sun as their 12th man to grind down Seattle, and then got the goals late when they brought in Irvin Torres with fresh legs. So certainly that is a way to win. You can do that, but you're not going to have, hopefully, those kind of conditions match after match. It's probably going to be a little warm in Denver here on Saturday, but nothing probably like we experienced in Q2 last week, or again, the players and the fans experienced. We were in air conditioning, and I'm so grateful for that.
I want to dive into the Colorado stuff, but the player we were given to talk to was Basart Sabovic.
Yeah, and that was interesting. Yeah.
I said it about Izuni, and I said it about Sabovic, a player who I am the opposite of high on and have been for a while. Nothing would make me happier than to see a player flourish when out from under a yoke. And look, everybody thought he had scored an Olympico until other camera angles revealed that no, indeed, Ilya did get his head on that.
But was he redirecting it, or would it have been an Olympico anyway that Ilya just got away?
Either way, that Sabovic put it where he put it as well as he did, he deserves credit for that. And that was early in that.
And then additionally didn't take corners the rest of the match.
Yeah. Which made me go, huh? Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
I would love more data to reflect the fact that he has had some sort of a turnaround. We don't have enough of that data yet. I appreciated getting a bit of additional context from him that they are not playing adaptively in the let's change all of our tactics game to match a particular opponent, that they are playing one style. Frankly, I like that. I would like it better if I had a few more games of seeing it work the way that it seemed to work against Seattle. I like what we heard from him, and I think everybody deserves an opportunity to come out of a slump. I would love to be proven wrong about him and see a turnaround from him on the caliber of what we saw from 2025 Uzuni to 2026 Uzuni. I'm glad to see him unafraid to come out and face the dynamic duo of media that he had to talk to on Thursday.
You and Ann Parker. Yeah.
Me and Ann Parker.
Just hanging out. So I want to read this quote because I think this is interesting, gives some good insight into what the team is experiencing. And yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Sabovic perhaps has no more to give, and he's just going to kind of let loose and say what he thinks. So that's refreshing. We don't have Danny on this team any longer. So having Sabovic speak in this context is pretty nice. He says, we're playing a different type of style now in offense and defense. I think David has a clear picture when we try to do the same things, become good at our Austin FC identity, rather than to play against or to manage too much of the opposing teams. Like how they play, we want to focus more on our play and how we're going to play rather than how they are playing, and how we can be ready to be against them more than they should be willing to play against us. I think that's interesting. So that to me reveals that, again, like that adaptability that you're talking about, that they're not necessarily going to alter what they do to match other teams. They're just going to kind of stick to their principles and play accordingly. And to me, yeah, there's a certain amount of consistency that's possible within that. But also, if you are not fluid and flexible and you don't figure out tactics to match what the other team is doing, that is concerning. Like, what is going to work against 70% Seattle is not going to work against Houston at home, with a lot of their players finding their form right now. Guilherme is deservedly an all-star. He very much looked the part on Saturday. You have the luxury of being able to bring in Jack McGlynn as a sub, who is still kind of coming back from injury. Ezekiel Ponce has not been a very effective forward for the Dynamo, but you saw him
he won't be there long.
He won't be there long. But in the meantime, he did some things on Saturday that maybe kind of helps his value and his movability a little bit, right? So some real concerns about if you cannot adjust your play for teams like that, and if you get beat over the top once and then you subsequently get beat over the top two more times because you're not doing the kind of necessary in-game adjustments that you need to do, then that to me is worrisome. And again, I see this kind of Wolfian rigidity in what Arnaud is doing, and that makes me very concerned, especially because I think what he's shooting for and what he's doing is going to engender mediocre results. I don't think that they're necessarily going to completely be in the tank with those kind of tactics. I can see kind of the logic with that, but I see them performing at a 1 PPG, 1.2 PPG clip the rest of the season with that kind of play, and that's not going to get them into the playoffs.
I would love nothing more than for everything that you just said to be laminated on the wall and serve as motivation to these guys.
But you know I'm right.
I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to let
Okay.
you put those words in my mouth because I don't actually agree. I don't think the second half of the season is going to be about trend lines. I've said that from the start. I think it's going to be about defining what the new trend lines are. It's not trying to throw my head in the sand, but I think it'll be interesting to compare the difference in looking at the full aggregate 2026 stats and looking at what the first half of the season was versus starting with the Seattle game and looking at all manner of production, all manner of progress, comparing them like separate seasons, even though it is not that different of a roster, even though some would say that there's no reason to do that. I just think there will be something interesting to see out of that. And they could go into a total tailspin, on fire 6 ways from Sunday. Sure. But we're not there yet. And I think they should have 6 games to let everybody know how they're going to show up, because Colorado has not met a ref who likes them when it comes to being withholding with cards. I have a feeling about tonight's Colorado match that might nudge things back toward the way that people felt on the other side of the Seattle match. But one game isn't going to do it. One game isn't going to do it. It could be a 6-0 blowout on the road in Austin's favor. And I don't think that does it in terms of filling the stands back up and getting people excited again.
I mean, Colorado's 13th in the West. Austin's 14th in the West. I'm kind of feeling like a semi-frisky 2-2 draw. Ball's going to move in altitude. It's not going to be the cauldron that the last 2 matches have been, I don't think. Oh, there is actually a heat advisory in Denver today.
Yes, there is.
But it looks like a high of 95, a low of 68. But it looks like by game time in the low 90s, we'll drop down into the mid 80s probably by the end of the game. So that is relatively cool and refreshing for this Austin team, given what they played in the last couple of games. So that could be a factor. So 13th against 14th, they are on 17 points right now after 17 games. That's exactly 1 point per game. If they even need to just get to 40 points, they have to play at 1.35 points per game. And if they have to get to, let's say we talk about 45 being kind of that threshold, they have to play at a 1.65 points per game clip in order to get to that 45 threshold. Like, I don't even think that they get to 40 this season. I think they have another sub 40 season by season's end.
Your obsession with their placement in the table and playoff points, I don't see John Gallagher fretting about 1.35 points per game while he's trying to find space on the right side or trying to send a long ball up to the left.
Of course not. Of course not. And I don't want the players to be bothered by these numbers in the way that I'm bothered by these numbers, but those
in what way does
that
in what way does that affect how they are going to play in the game tonight? In what way is worrying about how they get from 17 points to 40 or 45 going to affect the way that they play against a Colorado side that is a card magnet? Like, I think a Colorado player gets sent off tonight. I think that's not unreasonable. And the moment that happens, that things are going to start going incredibly poorly for Colorado, because that's kind of the story of their season. I feel like the worrying about what point total they get to 3 months from now, yeah, it is a ways off to the point of you can keep fretting about it, but I don't know that it's going to do anything to help or hinder or in any way affect the way that they play the game tonight.
But it's a report card. They have a report card that has them on 1 PPG the first half of the season because they've had these defensive lapses.
They don't care about
Yeah, but they've had defensive lapses. They've had confusion about how they're supposed to play. Facu has been relatively ineffective since he's gotten here. He's been good on set pieces to create assists, but he hasn't created the goals that they were expecting of a DP. They have had some injuries that they've dealt with, and that's been a concern. But they also, during this first half of the season, had things that were so bad. They lost against a team that they, by all rights, should have beaten. And immediately after that, they fired both their coach and their sporting director. And they are now rolling out a new system that they've tried to implement over this kind of 5-6 week break. And we're seeing mixed results in these first two matches, to be generous about it. So I'm not saying that they need to
I'm not saying
hang around with the doom and gloom of numbers that I carry with me in covering this team, but it's a report card. It's an indication of where they are. And I don't see
exactly what you're saying, Phil, is that the train that is on fire is going to continue to go off the rails and be more on fire. That there is literally no way that it gets back on the track, and that this is just the direction that it's going. And
I would love for them to prove me wrong.
But it doesn't sound like you are leaving much, if any, room for that possibility even being theoretically in the cards.
I've just seen this movie before. And I lived through the 23 and 24 season. I see vestiges of that in what I'm seeing now with Arnaud. Unless Facu starts to find his form, in case Owen comes back, in case they figure out where to best deploy Rosales on the field, I think we're in for more of this. I think we're in for more roller coaster. Yeah, maybe we get a win against Colorado. They're a beatable team. But then what happens on the other side of Leagues Cup? They've got some tough matches coming up, and I don't know that they bank the wins that are going to get them into the playoffs. And I don't even know if they should really care about that as much as trying to figure out what they have so Curtin can come in and evaluate and do the job that they've hired him to do, which is to take a team that has talent but has not had MLS winning direction and do that, to create a kind of system and to create a kind of style of play and principles that Curtin talked about that sounded really appealing, that will actually manifest into success playing in MLS the way that LAFC has consistently done it, the way that, Seattle up until maybe this year has consistently done it. There are these models that they have clubs in mind for who they want to be like, who they want to emulate. They are trying to articulate this kind of style of play. But again, if they're going to have these kind of defensive lapses, if they're not going to be flexible enough to adjust for what their opponents are doing and cross and hope, then I don't see them getting to 45 points and getting into the playoffs.
You've made that just very clear that you do not see them getting to 45 points multiple times over multiple weeks. I'll say this: 2 competitive matches into a new system of tactics. I don't know that you can reasonably have the expectation that they are comfortable and are executing in whatever the ideal version of those tactics are in 2 games, because it's like you keep ladling on, well, this one match from the first half of the season and this other thing from the first half of the season, that was almost 3 months ago now. I don't know that you can hold that time when they were not playing these tactics at all and had a different coach against the exactly 2 competitive matches that they've had, making this new thing make whatever version of sense that it does to them. I think it's going to take time, and I'm not saying they're definitely going to do it either. I'm saying I need to see where they're at 6 games in on the other side of the 3 group stage games for Leagues Cup. I don't think it is a guarantee that's the only Leagues Cup games that they end up playing. I've talked to Hernan. We have a mutual feeling that Club America is not going to show up the way that you expect that brand name to show up against Austin. That's their 3rd match as well. And even though they will be the ostensible home team for that match, they are not in the best of shape, and they are going to 100% play down to the opponent the way that Pumas and Monterrey did. Which is what gets Mexican teams in trouble in that building.
Quick quiz. Do you know who is leading the Liga MX table right now?
Who?
It's early. Tijuana, their first
Tijuana?
opponent.
Really?
Yeah.
Good old Tijuana. That they
Roberto Mora.
Yeah,
17-year-old wonder kid.
Tijuana.
It's going to be fun to watch.
Tijuana with Mora, for me, is really the bigger threat. They're the ones that are executing really well right now. I think Puebla is going to be more challenging than people give them credit for. I think a bunch of assumptions are going to get upended for the folks that actually pay attention to that competition.
I still think Puebla is where we see the rotation happen, though. It's the second of the third
I think that's
games.
reasonable. I cannot see them rotating against Tijuana because they're too formidable. But I don't know.
I know you've had a feeling about this for a while.
Davey made mention of the 30-man roster, and I think playing the kids is something that people may finally get some joy out of. I want to give him 6 games and see what things look like on the other side of those 6 games.
Okay.
3 league games, 3 Leagues Cup games. And I think that sets the tone for them more than anything for the rest of the season.
Right. But also the finishing has to happen. You remember, this has been a persistent thing. Like the questions the first half of the season are, okay, when are the goals going to come?
You're telling me they have to win games? Wait a minute, Phil. This is news to me. They have to win games? I didn't know that was a requirement.
Right. And they have to score goals to win games. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, if you insist.
Right. Yeah. Well, even Davey was pointing to that being the issue with Houston game. In his mind, if they only had those chances finished, then the scoreline would have been a lot friendlier to them. So yeah, we'll see what they do when it comes time to actually play these games, starting with Colorado. And by the way, yeah, we do have some insights on the Rapids from Eamon Shaw that we're going to get up here this morning by the time that you were able to listen to this. Looks at Paxton Aronson as an X factor, which makes sense. There is an X in his name. Hoffa Navarro obviously is a player to look out for. The Rapids leading in goal scoring for them this year. He has a goal against Austin in this Den Verde series, and he also has an own goal in this Den Verde series as well. So that's going to be obviously a player to watch for in this. Yeah, again, like I said, I think a frisky 2-2 draw. I don't know that. I mean, again, Austin does not have a road win this season. This is an opportunity for them to do it. Certainly, if there is a winnable road match, this seems to be the one that it would be. So again, hopeful for that. Oh, we should mention this, actually. So if you are wanting to partake of this match against the Rapids with friends and you have not gone to Den Verde, where might you go?
Well, Phil, there are so many wonderful local breweries that one could go to. But one in particular is where you're going to want to go if you want to go to the most happening watch party in town, which is the lovely people at Brutorium, who are once again rolling out the South Ender Pale Ale, which is going to be back on tap. They've got koozies that are going to be available for sale.
They are tall boy koozies.
Tall boy koozies. They're great. Love the design. They turned it around ridiculously fast earlier in the season.
Looking at one right now, actually.
So the watch party is going to start 7:30, kickoffs 8:30. Bunch of parking on site as well as on the street. It's indoors, crucial for these hot summer temps. Everybody had a great time when they went out earlier this season. They are a great partner over at Brutorium and support a local business.
Yeah, saw the Montreal match there, the ill-fated Montreal match. Saw the first half there and then was able to bike back to my house in time to watch the second half at home and get stuff wrapped up for the press conference. So yeah, lovely, lovely place. Obviously, great pretzels. If you have not partaken of the pretzels, you should do that. There's axe throwing within the building as well. In case you want to get some frustrations out after the match, you can throw some axes if you so choose. 6015 Dillard Circle is the address. It is right across the street from the ACC Highland campus, if you know that. So if you are on the train line and the train is running, then you can be a short walk from the Brutorium with that Highland stop.
Good place to go hang and watch Austin take home their first road win of the season, which is my prediction. I don't see a draw. I don't see a loss. I see Austin winning.
Yeah, I will not be there because my son's coming back from London tonight. So I'm going to get him from the airport. And then he has said he wants Madame Mam's, which is our go-to Uber Eats Thai place. So going to do some of that. So, all right. So before we go, are we looking forward to Leagues Cup? We talked about that a little bit. We got our acceptances for covering that from the leagues last night. Kind of.
It just shy.
There's a
of
long
10,
story involved.
I think I can compress it really easily. Just before 10 p.m. local time, you and I both got.
Always a good sign. Always a good sign.
You and I both got the exact same swing of emails.
Almost the exact same.
Well, we got an approval and 2 denials.
I got 2 approvals and denials. I got an approval in English at 9:50. I got an approval in Spanish at 9:51, and then I got a rejection at 9:52 that I am just going to ignore. I'm just going to pretend that 9:52 didn't happen because I'm sure it was a mistake.
I got an approval in English, and then a rejection in Spanish, and then a rejection in English, and then I just followed the instructions in the approval and submitted my stuff. Yeah, for whatever reason, I guess this needed to be more complicated than necessary. Good old folks at Leagues Cup. Boy, what a cup. What a leagues.
CONCACAF energy.
What a Leagues Cup. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird to even posit whether I'm excited or not about it. I think because of yet another format change, Austin's got to show up big. It's more that they are fighting for points to be among a small number of top MLS clubs in the competition to get into one of the MLS designated spots in the knockout rounds. Can they do it? You know what? There are way too many variables at play for me to even say that based on how they're showing up, how I rate the roster and that kind of thing. Reasonably, I think it is totally realistic that Austin makes it to the knockout rounds. I don't think that's out of the question at all. I just think that it's going to be really chaotic and we won't really know until they kick off the second match. If it's a pipe dream, if it's a possibility, if maybe all the other MLS clubs are doing poorly. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or outstandingly well.
I love this stupid tournament.
It's real dumb, but sometimes
it's fun.
It produces some absolute scenes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like Nahul doing the magic tricks in goal before the penalty kicks sequence when Tigres played Vancouver. That is a highlight moment for me. Yeah, there's a lot of fun in this tournament. I mean, again, kind of questioned at the outset of this year, okay, well, there's a World Cup, there's a lot going on, and we're getting MLS Cup in mid-December. Certainly we're not going to have Leagues Cup jammed into this. Certainly they will take a year off. But no, they are persisting. So they're cramming these group stage games into this weird 2-week window here in August. And then they're going to persist. We'll do a full breakdown of Leagues Cup preview just, again, to get everybody acclimated to what this is about, what the format is. Because again, it is, like you said, there are some changes. It is a little confusing. It is going to be a little bit more compressed, a little bit more competitive than it has been. And again, the goal is to try to get obviously an MLS team against a Liga MX team in the final. That's usually not the way that it's engineered, but we actually do have some games in Mexico this year, which is exciting. I think that's good, right? So that's certainly something that we'd like to see. And I think it makes the tournament more interesting. And it also, again, I think kind of helps some of those Mexican teams who, again, this is an inverse of CONCACAF's Champions Cup, right? So where in that tournament you have MLS in preseason form and you have Liga MX kicking right along. This year, Liga MX has barely started.
They've only just barely started. But in terms of the Leagues Cup format, the things to keep in mind to keep it simple, 36 clubs, 18 from each league.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a no ties format this year.
Good. Okay.
So in the event of a draw, penalty shootout every game.
Nice.
So
the way it should be.
So the way they have things split up in the quarterfinals, everything is still, you have MLS will be facing Liga MX in every case. They have set things up so that only 4 teams from each league make it to the knockout rounds in the first place.
Oh, that's
so
right.
Out of 36 teams, the top 8, 4 from each league, are the only ones that make it into the knockouts. Which, okay, simplify it. So Austin will have to be one of the top 4 teams from MLS in terms of points.
Right.
To make it into the quarterfinals.
Right.
Which are...
So that probably necessitates winning at least 2 of those matches, I would think.
I would think so. And I feel like people should not get down if they lose a penalty shootout against Tijuana, because I think the Puebla and Club America games are very winnable.
Very is doing a lot of work there, but...
Very winnable. Very winnable. Okay. I will plant a flag. Okay. Those are very winnable matches.
Okay. I'm planning my sub 40 flag. You are planning your Austin going to beat Puebla and Club America flag. Okay.
Yeah.
Flag's planted.
In the quarterfinals, it is once again ensured Liga MX versus MLS because you have exactly 4 teams from each league. And then the semifinals is where it could be an all MLS semifinal into the final. It's entirely possible.
Could be League Cup.
Could be League Cup. Could be League Cup, but no sooner than the semifinal round. And there will be a third place match because it's not a real competition if you don't have a third place match.
Love a third place match.
Mm.
I mean, I kind of do, actually.
Third place matches are 17 layers of chaos. I love it.
Can be, yeah. Also can be like one team doesn't show up and it's terrible.
True.
But then you could also have France, England, where
one team plays guys with 3-digit numbers on their jerseys.
Right. Yeah.
And only
we could
3-digit number guys.
Which is something we really need in MLS, I think.
But yeah, quarterfinals happen over the course of August 25th through the 27th. Semifinals right on the heels of that, 1st and 2nd of September. And then the final and the third place match both get played on September 6th. So
yeah, I think this is a good change. It's compressed. You have
so much better
enjoyment of the group stage games, but then also, you don't kind of belabor the knockout rounds. I think 8 teams is just nothing. That is a little severe, right? But that does give you impetus to show up in those group stage matches big. And if you are going to try to win that tournament, you need to go all out in those matches. And that you've got the league paused yet again is a little frustrating this year. But yeah, I think this is good. I think overall this is an improvement over what they've had past years. Yeah, it just went, I think, way too long in those previous years. We did get a lot of chaotic moments and it was fun, but not everybody was sold on it, especially during the time where they were trying to have it supplant US Open Cup.
The thing about the marketing that extended to the way that they structured the tournament previously, and I feel like last year was a progressive move toward what they've gotten to here, which I think is smarter. They were pitching it as it's a World Cup style tournament. And
no, it's not.
No, it's not, first of all. Second of all, why do you want this to go on for as long as humanly possible? Nobody involved, from the audience to the players, want a longer cup tournament than necessary. If you want to really make it be about the superior teams, great. You've got to be one of the top 4 teams out of 30 or out of 18 on your side of the league divide to make it into the knockouts at all. And then, great, play 3 more matches. A total of 6 matches to a championship, great. That's fine. I don't completely fundamentally hate Leagues Cup the way that I did in its initial form.
Right. There is that. Yeah. But it'll be fun. They're already running commercials and it involves a couple playing foosball. So good job, guys.
Yeah.
So,
well,
can I kick it?
Thanks, Phil. They'll take it from here.
Anything else we have to get to?
Not really, man. Oh, we did get word that there will be the night before the Club America game. Season ticket holders will have an exclusive opportunity to buy the new Austin FC third kit at the Yeti flagship store, which you won't get in if you don't have a season ticket holder account. But yeah, some nice perks.
You will get to start wearing purple, as Gogol Bordello suggests.
Yeah. Phil, I guess that's it.
All right. Enjoy yourselves if you are at Brutorium, and then we will be with you next when we are talking about Leagues Cup.
This is the best Austin FC related thing you've heard in the history of 9 years I've been on this planet.